If they want you to share your screen when we go over the points of agreement, so if we can use live.
Okay, you ready to go, Libby?
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the April 28th committee meeting of the Parks and Public Spaces Committee of Manhattan Community Board 5. I'm Libby Hutton. I'm the chair. First, got a very packed agenda tonight. First, let's go around the room. If everyone can introduce themselves. I will begin, starting at my left.
John Herrick.
Hey, Kim McCall.
Michael K. Back.
James Michael Southworth.
Annie Roland.
And with any members that we have currently online, could introduce yourselves.
Isabel Parks. Yes.
Charles Nye.
Catherine Ellington.
Kevin Dobbins, Rainbow Sound.
Oh, just members of the committee, thank you.
We'll meet you later. Kevin Dobbins.
Michael, do we have quorum?
Sorry. I'm just joining the Zoom and then I'll be able to tell us.
We're waiting for one more for quorum. But I will begin. Michael, is that right?
Yeah. Going through quickly.
Eight.
So our
It says, yes, we do.
It says yes, we've got a quorum. Great. So our first item on the agenda is the Midtown South Points of Agreement as it pertains to the Parks and Public Spaces Committee. Hey, Marnell, this is the points of agreement as understood coming from our committee and through this lens. Next, we will hear about the review of the Nomad Jazz Festival, which will take place August 9th to 10th in Madison Park. And we'll hear an update on the Youth for Partnership about their spring and summer programming. We will then have an innovation hearing about the KBB storefront innovation in Grand Park, the Ultimate Terrace, which is 16th through 18th, and then the Austria Tourism and Vienna Tourist Board Waltz into Space event. The Vienna and Austrian tourism organizations are hosting a screening in Grand Park, live streaming Strauss's Louisiana Waltz, performed by the Wiener Symphoniker, to be held on Milan on May 31st. The Knicks viewing party has been nixed from the agenda. And then we will hear from Madison Square Park Conservancy about the activation for the Fresh Cosmetics activation feature on May 16th and May 17th. And then any new business, I'm going to ask now, are there any members of the public who are in attendance who would like to speak on any item that is not currently on our agenda? Please raise your hand and I will take questions. Is there any members of the public who would like to speak on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, that closes the business. Yes,
I just had a question on the public space.
can you please introduce yourself?
My name is Robert Shannon, I'm the Assistant Director of Security at the Luxury Collection Hotel. at 151 West 54th Street.
Okay,
And my question was, we have a public space, 6.5 Avenue. And it's right now to determine that it has to be open from 7 AM to 11 PM. And I'm not sure how that restriction works, and we were wondering if we can change it because we're facing a lot of graffiti that's going on in there. So we're gonna see if we can close it a little earlier, but I think there's one neighborhood person who was objected to. We ended up getting the summons because we had to close that, I think, 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and we got a summons for that. So I'm not sure what the regulations are on that.
is
I
this a publicly owned, the POPs, is the privately owned public space?
believe so, yes.
There, yeah, the regulations that exist around that, we can get back to you, and handle stuff with our office. And we can, if you give us your information, we'd like to talk to you about that offline.
Thank you.
But, yeah, the cost need to remain open during that thing. A lot of that regulation is handled by our land use committee and zoning committees. But we will definitely put you in touch and we can take that up.
Yeah, get you in touch with the board.
Yeah, the right-
board
Michael, could you
office.
speak a little louder, please?
We'll put you in touch with the board office and the right people, the right committee to go in front of to ask for a change if
Okay.
necessary. Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay, I see another member of the public, Richard Schulman. I'm now going to promote you and you are allowed to speak. Please remember, this is about something that is not addressing a matter that's not on the agenda.
Hi, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's related and not related at the same time to the jazz concert. I'm not sure how many of the board members live in the area around Madison Park, but there was a Persian concert here yesterday. And if the jazz concert is anything like that, by the way, just so you know, I love jazz and I'm a photographer and I've photographed a lot of jazz musicians, so I'm not against jazz. But Madison Square Park is like a valley. It's a valley now. You know, it's filled with residents and everything echoes, and no decibel level is acceptable anymore because for 6 hours yesterday, the Persians played their music, which is fine, but except I had to hear it for 6 hours. I love jazz, but all these concerts and park parades around Madison Park, unfortunately, and I've lived here for over 30 years, they are outdated. They need to find a bigger space because the music and the parade is just too much. You know, it drives people. My building has 400 and some odd units. It drives people out of the building. The hotel next door to me, the manager complains about it. The people at Italy complain about it. So, you know, I just think that the venue has to change. And, you know, I know you're turning Madison Park and this area into a destination for entertainment, but it's too small. It's just too small for all this now. And you know, I know you're not going to go to Central Park and I know you're not going to go to Queens, but it can't be in Madison Park anymore. And I've talked to the Conservancy, and they're ridiculous because they say, you know, decibel levels are really low and there's people cleaning up after everybody, but that they start preparing for their event early in the morning and they leave at 8 o'clock at night. Why do we have to subject ourselves to all that noise?
Okay, thank you for your comment about the parades. You will have an additional.
Which is the
this
same,
hour.
by the way. Sorry, it's just, you know, I think it's linked to the jazz. Like I said, I love jazz, but I know what kind of day it's going to become with all that.
The period to comment on that agenda item will be offered later, but your
Okay.
comment on the parade, the post-parade event, the Persian parade is noted. Okay. Are there any other members of the public who would like to comment on a matter that is not currently on the agenda as outlined? Okay, seeing none, all members of the committee, should have received an email, from me, including the current draft of the points of agreement for the Midtown South rezoning. This, as we all know, voted on the Midtown South rezoning land use zoning change. These are the points of agreement that we've discussed. Thank you for all of you who submitted comments on changes to this and all of your ideas. I included as many of them as possible. Huge shout out to Myrnal, who worked with me writing all of this into a format. And for Southworth in proposing the first draft of a bunch of these and consolidating them. Some of these points are verbatim duplicates from what Julie has circulated that will be coming out of all of the different committees. But in order to have a holistic view specifically of the public space element and public space commitment, I wanted to be sure that we included our entire perspective with these points. So where possible, in order to make the executive committee's job easier when it comes to integrating these, the conversation has been mostly to keep it a duplicative effort. So there are some points that are that way. I spoke with Julie earlier today on some of the specific land use changes and zoning items, specifically, especially on the returning to more of a pre-city of yes percentage of green space because it's a highly dense area that is under bullet point 5 in the first part. But so I wanted to open the floor to anyone who had anything specific to say on any of these points. And if there was to raise anything that people had a problem with or wanted to be made less specific is an option, or to include something slightly different. The way that I want this to work, since we have it in front of us, again, not the exact language, but I would like for us all to dial in that exact language to the extent we can. And then that can be what we bring. And it can be modified. Again, we want to take as big of a moonshot as possible to get as much open space, which has been the perspective of this committee, even asking if it's private residential space is still a priority of this committee, but also arguing in favor of the most public space we can. And so this was an attempt for that.
Question or
Did you ask a
This is-
question?
this
Did
is-
you?
I mean, does anyone have any, this is general questions, comments, just general discussion?
Yeah, so question
Yeah.
for 5.
Yeah.
Can someone explain it? I'm not sure.
Could you speak up, John? I can't hear you.
John is asking to explain point 5 in the current draft.
The way I'm reading it, if you have a building, then you have to have the equivalent of the same space.
So let me share.
Sure, I understand.
Michael, this was discussed at the land use meeting. Michael, I'm gonna share with you the slide deck that Julie shared with me, so we can put that up.
Okay.
So this is included at the request of land use specifically, but so that it comes out of our committee. Myrnal, would you like to discuss this a little bit more since you are a member of that committee and worked on this?
Yeah, I mean, so basically, before City of Yes, there was a requirement that 50% of the floor of the lot area on all of the rooftop area be made available for recreational purposes to the residents of a building. Then City of Yes got rid of the requirement. So the idea was to essentially reinstate it for this particular rezoning, more because there really is just such a lack of green space. And then and I guess we're going a step further and requesting it be 100%. Again, it doesn't have to be on the rooftop, because a lot of times the rooftop is not, yeah, exactly, it's not, it's available. There's mechanicals up there and whatnot, so it can be within the building as well, but just we're trying to compensate for the lack of green area within the building.
On the setback. But I got it now, it's where it's locked. I think that's.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, yeah.
so it's the lot, so, and also
Yeah,
just
I'm
the-
not sure everybody's gonna understand what lot.
so just to
Got it.
clarify a little bit more, this has been done, Julie gave me a bunch of examples of what's happened in other cities. I've shared a slide from last week's land use meeting. I just emailed it again. And way that it's been done in places like Singapore is that in the middle of a building, instead of say having a mechanical void, you can have plants.
Right.
And so there's a 45-degree angle where enough light gets in, so you can have greenery and trees and recreational seating area and this greenery that we've all wanted and raised numerous times in our points of agreement. That this is done in other cities successfully. So whether it is a green roof on the top of the building or whether there are these mechanical void-ish spaces, but mid-building places for public greenery and access because you've got enough light, or at ground level, which may or may not be open to the public, but ideally would be more open to the public. But given how dense this is and there isn't a lot of space, this is a way to encourage and incentivize a maximum amount of greenery in this lot size. And so instead of returning just to the pre-city of yes, because this is a big rezoning, this is one of the ways to incentivize that greater FAR, because the 18 FAR is only in one of those quadrants, it's not in all of them. So in order to get that livability and that greenery, even if it's just for the residents and it's not for the public, that we, on these other items, we are arguing, we're taking a pretty big swing to get more public space and a real public park. But this is for specifically that residential piece where it would be available to those residents in a different manner.
I mean, I get, yeah.
It's the slides up now.
Yeah, so if it's, I think it's slide 4. And then slide 5 beneath that gives a different visual. So see how the light can come in at a 45-degree angle, and then this is where there's a floor mid-building that is greenery. Does anyone have additional questions about this particular item and how this would work and the 100% lot area?
I'd like to see them do that on an existing building.
Todd,
Can everybody hear me?
No.
yes,
Well,
speak up, Todd.
Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say that for the most part, this document is very consistent with what PPS has advocated for during the time that I've been on the office, MSMX. There are some things that are out of alignment with the city of Yes, but I believe that is to our credit. I think that the concept of dedicated funding and the open space that we were just reviewing, and many of the other options, the idea of a public space extending down Broadway, these are all things that are completely consistent with what we've always advocated for, and I would urge everybody to support it. I simply have 2 comments. I apologize. I had family engagements and was relatively late to the game in reviewing the document. I sent something in at the last minute about the importance, if they're going to do this, of making sure that there are public restrooms. That's a priority that many committees, so I hope to see that in here somewhere, right? And then the only other thing, and it may be in from some of the other committees, but and maybe I missed it, but something having to do with a concern about light and shadow and shading. I think that that has been something that, the other committees have been concerned about, but certainly we, with the parks that we do have being turned into canyons and with, the much larger FAR, we should certainly say that within reason, we should do what we can to study this. Yeah.
So, thank you, Todd. So, just on the bathroom point, it is number 12 under, the first section, open space and public space.
Great,
We do have a bathroom line, I mean, for sure to include that, though traditionally that has come out of Bex, with Julie, our very own Julie Chu's amazing work with the bathroom working group. And to the second point on shadows, I believe Myrtle has, would you like to add something on that point?
Yeah, Todd, so we included, so point number 2.
Please address your comments to the chair.
Yes,
Yeah,
sorry.
thanks.
So point number 2, identify sites for conversion of city-owned lots and parcels within the MSMX district into permanent parkland, playgrounds, and community gardens to provide necessary active and passive recreational opportunities for residents of all ages. Does that address some of the concerns of shadows?
I'm sorry, I barely heard what you said. Are you saying that there are community gardens that would address the issue of light? What I'm thinking of, can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, what I'm thinking of are some of the light study proposals that have been put before our committee and the full board many times over the years.
So
you know.
Todd, that's a little bit out of the scope of this. That was addressed at our last full board meeting when we voted on the Midtown South rezoning. The actual incentives around trying to get more public space and look through the lens of the public space and parks lens, try to like add on to that. We have less control over the FAR ratio and how tall things are and shadow studies within that realm, but this is an opportunity for us to add parks and add open space and advocate on behalf of that to the extent we are able to in exchange for them adding more height. But the zoning changes and like the studies beyond that, I think are a little bit outside of this particular scope, but Michael Sauer.
I'm just wondering if that is something that's, I'd have to revisit it, but if it's included in land uses, because I think that technically it's part of the zoning.
I think it's part of what was already voted on previously, and this is from the last meeting, and this is just the
Right.
points of agreement. Because we have concerns about light and air.
Yeah.
This is also what we are attaching to that really specific zoning
Right.
requirements.
I guess that's to say, I think it's, I guess that's to say, I think it's covered, just not in ours.
Yeah, I believe that it's also something that we voted on last meeting, so it's already previously been like fully addressed. Within that, just speaking of sort of the parks request, the biggest swing, just want to highlight for everyone that the biggest swing that we are taking within this points of agreement document in general is the idea of funding a study for this linear park, where that would take the Broadway vision plan that we also want to fund fully to a more substantial level where we study the feasibility and really request for an integrated design to be put forth and like fully fund an actual study to determine the feasibility of how that would happen, what it would take, what it might look like in varying levels. But we know that we definitely need more tree cover, we need more public space, and this is already a very underserved area in that regard. So the idea that we might be able to add a park under the open realm, even if it is managed not necessarily by the Parks Department, but turning it really into park land, essentially. Michael Southworth.
I also just wanted to say, you're very welcome to stay, but this is gonna be a long meeting.
Okay.
And so, but like, if you're interested, feel free to stay, but you don't have to, because
Sure.
we'll absolutely make sure that you're,
I sent your information to the board office, so they'll get back to you. as
Awesome,
the
thank you so much.
building is
I
done.
want to introduce myself and meet the board and see what it's all about.
absolutely,
Questions?
Nice to meet you.
and
You're
welcome
feel,
to stay.
feel free to, it's just, I just wanted to give you a heads up that.
That's all right. I'm good.
Gonna be a
I'm
little
good.
while,
All
so.
right, have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thanks for being here.
Annie.
So when I was reading it over, and this is helpful, the point about the lot area, because I was not following, given many a roof requires other needs for buildings outside of gardens, but, that is the answer by way of doing it throughout the building. I guess if our hope here is to shoot for the moon and to make the point underlining what our mission is as a committee at PPS, I guess one question of the sustainability and resiliency portion that I wanted to ask.
Yes, I'd love to get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No, please bring it. It's okay to. We're raising questions that we have to try to discount stuff, so I think we mostly agree on a lot of it.
Right, yes, this is sort of a yes and to things that I'm reading here. There was nothing that jumped out at me that I was concerned with, other than what previously was to, are we asking things that can't be met? So sometimes, so given 5, for example, we give at least 100%. So we're really like laying it down that this needs to be a measurable increase. And then sometimes when we go under the sustainability resiliency portion on section 2, subsection B, requiring all new renovated public spaces to include permeable surfaces. So I love that. And then looking down at number 3, increasing the number of street trees, I am all for maximizing the amount of trees we can put across this city. I wonder if we give something that's a little more aggressive. I don't know what that would be, but like an increase could just be plus 1. So I just wonder if there's stronger language that we've used in the past or that we would think of here for the brainstorming.
I would love to brainstorm metrics. Some of the concern around developing this was trying to not create policy in the footnotes, but if we have metrics that we can use that are attached to actual current things,
Okay.
like reduce the heat index by a certain amount, like that, it starts to get into a little bit of a gray area between what we want and what we can ask for realistically and not be fully dismissed. Street trees, I think we have enough consensus and it's come out of the board as a whole. That's one of the main criteria, is that something has moved through the entire board previously.
Okay, great.
But I am happy for anyone. We haven't taken it up super recently. And especially because it's not as feasible within the utilities that are underground to have the actual with root structures.
Right.
But I'm happy to have any ideas that anyone has regarding that. Be more specific.
Got it. Okay, I can. Whatever. I had a question about something a little bit later on, so I'll wait. Further on this before.
Michael, did you have something specific on that? You worked on this section in particular.
Yeah.
There were some notes from other committees about trying to rework this, so I really would love to have everyone's opinion on the sustainability and resiliency portion.
Got it.
That's why some of it is a little bit mixed between the current sustainability
Right,
design guidelines that already exist for the
Right.
city, which are linked in the updated version, but maybe not in the version from this morning. That was after a conversation with Julie. So some of this stuff isn't new policy. It already exists within the city. We're just advocating for it more. But some of it is that we would like to have a study on how to actually reduce this heat as well. So I'm very open to whatever structural changes here that anyone wants to make. If someone wants to make something specific, I would very much appreciate it. Michael.
I'm similarly open to changes. It's sort of, in a weird way, left a little bit vague because there are like budget things about how much does it cost to install new ones? Where can you exactly put them? So it's like, you would want to say like, oh, 1,000 new trees, but it's hard to actually say that without really understanding what it means. And it like, if we say that and it doesn't make any sense, we don't want someone to look at us and be like, oh, they're being silly, so.
Right, okay.
There is something that we can do. This is an issue that Eric Botcher is extremely passionate
Yeah.
about, and this is his district. So I think that we can get in touch with him, maybe offline. The committee all generally agrees on wanting to add that metric and to go with what Eric Botcher has maybe already said. Is that something that the committee would be amenable to, specifically on the street trees?
Very interesting. I can really judge.
Yeah, that would be helpful. John, do you have an opinion on that?
Fine, I mean, if you want to put something here, you could always make the material increase where feasible or something like that, but.
I love anything that's the legal. I am very happy to
John,
incorporate.
Don't stop with your
Yeah,
suggestions.
please
Yeah, but-
continue.
but-
Rewrite.
But if you wanna go with the council idea, maybe better, because that's tangible stuff, and I don't know what he's written. But if
Yeah.
he said,
He's done a lot of work.
I've
He's
done
done-
research
Yeah.
and
Really
do
into it.
2,000 trees at these locations. That's better, I was just trying to
Phrase
address
it.
the issue of, you wanted to, instead of just saying increase, you could say a material or significant, increase. The plan and where feasible, at least that provides you some cover, it doesn't make you sound like you're just saying.
Right, I think
It's a lot.
his council. Urban forest master plan is what they called it, was a 30% increase in the trees across
Well, he
the
was very
city.
specific, okay.
Yeah,
But it does not include, but
I
we're
think it's
talking
not-
about CB5.
Yeah, I think we
Correct.
want
I
to
don't-
talk specifically.
And our situation is very different. with all
Correct.
the underground infrastructure.
I
right,
also think that if we ask. And it already is in there is about the containerization of it, but I think this also ties into having like a full vision of this Broadway linear park and what elements are included in that, plus the Broadway vision plan. To add that heat index tree cover, and that tree canopy, because even if it's a certain amount per citywide, this is one of the lowest tree covers and highest, least permeable pavement in all of New York City. And this area in particular is very hot, which I think there are also some diagrams from the land use committee and that slide deck. Catherine, I see you. You are recognized.
Something's wrong with my camera because we're using a new system tonight. And I was just gonna put, I guess my question is, does covered public space actually compete with the transit bonus?
so.
Section 8, the public realm fund. I'm still trying to build public space underground. So my comment is that if that's so, then I'm saying where there is where the selection is for the transit bonus, there should be still the exploration for built space underground.
So this was one of the ones where trying to figure out a way to get that worked in, and I had some conversations with our colleagues about it. And it was pretty difficult, given the city doesn't own the land and developers aren't necessarily a single development. It's not the same way where Rockefeller Center is owned by one sort of entity and you're not building new transits, they're not taking everything up. The logistics of sort of like the guts of the city that are underground are a really big complicating factor. But I definitely hear you on wanting to create more.
And then the other question was, or comment was, not that we're defining anything, but when we say public space, we do mean the rooftop and terrace. And I don't think the document, or maybe I'm missing where the document kind of describes when we're asking for the search for open space to be in the air, mid-level terraces, that it should say that.
For the 100%, do you mean for the 100% zoning thing? It's
No,
not.
I
that would be
mean,
private
when we
space
start to
law.
talk about open and public space, we should be talking about the urban sense of public space, which might be on a rooftop or might be like the terraces you just showed, like where we resolve open spaces. So
Do you mean, just to clarify, do you mean public space in the sense of all members of the public are able to access it? Or do you mean public spaces and communal space available to the private residents of that building?
oh no, I mean public space.
Okay, so
Open to the public.
for the 100% thing in particular, that specifically is not the same as creating pops. So we do want those to be created wherever possible.
I see. Okay.
With the land use work, and the zoning that went through, it is less likely that any truly public space is gonna be created from this. But despite that, we're going to have a bunch of new residents added. And we believe that those residents should also have access to greenery, open space that also has downstream effects on the heat and people's enjoyment for all of these new residents that are coming in, which is part of what that old zoning was with the 50% roof in general. We can outline more of what we mean within that 100% thing and flesh that out to be more connected to the describing of the angles and examples from other cities, if you would like.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if there's language that we can use for the underground, the transit bonus piece of it. Just the feasibility of the physical requirements of that were very much called into question. We want to make sure that this is really like realistic. That's part of where I think we might have included it up at the top.
So it opens up the question if that's why I said, does the transit bonus compete with the public space bonus? Because if they take the transit bonus, they're gonna be building underground.
Sure. Add to
Okay.
Maybe not. And I'm willing to take this offline. I should have.
Exactly. It doesn't work as a one-to-one, like we're gonna create a Second Avenue subway and now there's a new like train line. It's more about an upgrade to a particular, like adding an elevator that goes directly down. There's no.
So you mean
It is
like, for
vertical.
instance, you mean
It's
like,
like a
for
vertical
instance, in
drop.
Penn Plaza, you could enter Penn Station through one Penn Plaza or another door, there are other entryways through those buildings.
It wouldn't even be that. That I think would open it up for more of what you're asking for. This is more,
The elevator.
this is more like, hey, there's no elevator at this station. Can this developer pay for it? And that's how we're gonna get an elevator at that station because we can't afford it otherwise.
But it would be a public elevator or a private elevator.
Yeah, to the train.
Okay. All right, not to belabor the point. Okay, thank you.
Attached to that building necessarily. It'll be like nearby. But it's not something that they physically have control over. It is owned by the city. Murnau, do you want to speak to that?
I was just gonna add to that, the issue with this, well, not the issue, but one of the points that we agreed to when we did MSMX was that was agreed to the 18 FAR, and what that does is, according to the study that George James did, was he seems to think that because the FAR is already high, there's not gonna be a lot of people availing off of the transit bonus, period.
Okay.
So
thank you, Murnau. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, just to kind of keep this conversation reined in a little bit. If I want to focus a little bit, does anybody have any specific changes they would like to make or anything that they would like to get rid of? Right now, we've got the trees flagged to add Eric Botcher's language to be a little bit more specific and a little bit more aggressive about it. We've got some language about the 100% area and what we actually mean with the lot area and some of the specifics with some examples. The which we could add a little bit more about feasibility. We might be able to say, study it, but I will have to check with our land use chairs again on that. Yes.
Can I just suggest on the canopy, on the tree canopy, could we add language that says identify spots for adding or more trees, street trees in the MSMX zone instead of just saying increase the number of street trees, say identify.
Like fund a study to identify John, do you maybe have language on this?
Okay.
Material increase of
Materially
materially significant.
to make it a little stronger as well.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I thought that had been put to the side, but
I added that to 3.
Yeah, we've got fund a study to identify primary locations.
Oh, I was working on writing. that.
Oh,
But at the beginning, I said fund major investment in tree canopy expansion, create a material increase in a number of trees, whether containerized or underground. But that was intended to reflect John's proposal language.
yeah, this section got a little bit reworked because we want to avoid creating new policy, but we also want to be as bold and big as we possibly can.
We wanted to avoid policy. I have a question that I'm not trying to open up the can of whatever this may.
But-
I want to
But-
sidestep any of it,
but
but speaking to the enforcement and accountability
Yes.
of the Mikeson Park.
Yes, for example.
Like, I'd rather just take it out. I don't wanna open that up right now.
We do want to have,
I love enforcement of bikes everywhere, not just in parks. But we're just saying it needs to happen. We're not getting involved in any of the details.
so do you want to take out the upping the penalty? That's fine.
No,
No, just take it out.
I mean, I'm fine with it, but I just, do we anticipate this being met with anything?
are we whispering here or?
Okay, so the question is about, we've moved on to the next section or several sections down. So there's some questions around the cultural programming too that got pretty specific. Yes, this, good eye. Around the enforcement and compliance, which we also brought up in our brainstorming section. And then which was also brought up, but we got into some of the specifics. But yes, so the current situation is such that we can say that we want the current stuff enforced more. The specifics of how we want it enforced. Take out.
You say increase.
We could say, okay,
Say, and you could change rules.
Any.
Law. And regulation. These aren't rules.
yeah, it is technically the law, that is true.
Yeah.
And they are just violating the law.
Right. But also, does it have to have in parks, plazas and public spaces? You could just strike the whole thing, just say institute strict enforcement of rules governing bicycles and e-bikes use.
To ensure pedestrian safety.
Yeah,
This is
Love that.
streets, this is
I'm into
streets,
it.
it's sidewalks, it's everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not
They're
specific
killed
to
every day.
park, yeah.
So. I'm gonna get started, transportation committee member here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're looking further down.
Yeah,
The last-
3 feet.
Yeah, this is under enforcement and accountability.
Okay, I was looking at one where I struck the number.
Well, they restricted what.
So the blue section there,
Yeah, I think striking that works.
and then I was.
So
gonna
that
go down
does-
through the-
That does speak to the project that I am slowly trying to recruit members for to investigate all of the currently existing cops. And the enforcement of them, to do an actual survey of what currently exists in our district. How, what level of repair they're in or disrepair they're in, whether they are open at the hours they are supposed to be open. Part of that is that app that I think I shared with some of you, though I don't think it made it to the full board, our full committee meeting, is an app called Public Space. That is a much easier way to find some of that. If you would like to join that effort to get a sort of state of hops, that is something that you are very much encouraged to join. But yes, we should strike that. I think that part of the brainstormed idea was about better enforcement in general, and I think this also is in the land use.
Which
That
here,
that was circulated by, yeah,
love this.
the specifics, yes.
And I just wanted to comment as one thing for process that, so that everybody on the committee is aware that it's, what it sounds like is gonna happen, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that each committee is gonna have a version of these that will then get reconciled at exec. So,
Yes.
so like there might be something that we tried to, I think we tried to put in as much as possible, but there might be something that's
It is
outside
likely
of
it would-
scope.
Yes, so that's part of why some of the more land usey type of language was just taken verbatim from what has already been drafted from other committees. Just because if it's the same, then we can just vote in to mirror image this onto it and smush them together as opposed to getting caught up in the details of it. That executive committee meeting is going to be fun. Okay, is there anything else like that that people want to strike or are flagging? More eyes, the better. Do we want to
Was,
change?
was there something to 3B you were gonna change? I just wasn't sure the
I was
conclusion.
suggesting just removing parks, laws, and public spaces so that it's just strict
Yeah.
enforcement everywhere.
Give a little, take a little, you know, make it less enforcement, make it more enforcement. I see. Some horse trading happening here. Okay, let me see. Is there anyone online who has any comments on this from our committee? No hands raised. Okay, John?
So I was just, well, we make change, not.
In 3B?
Yeah. Because I have a couple of, I prefer the word law or regulation instead of rules.
Okay, we can totally,
Then the other issue is, and I'll use my friends on the transportation committee. The three, I mean. But we could have different takes of this. We could say we want stricter enforcement, more enforcement. But my thinking, I haven't come up with the wording is, I just want something enforced.
Yeah.
Begin to.
we find,
like,
Maybe make.
hours of our life.
Like, cause if I'm saying, like, could you make it more, I'm not saying that, I'm saying they're not enforcing.
You're
it.
right,
we
you're
don't
right.
want the bare
Right.
minimum.
Yeah,
You have identified the problem.
Right, and that jumps out more than saying, hey, can you do a little bit better job? We're saying you're not doing your job at all. I don't know what the language is for that. But at least in the area where I
The answer to the
live,
language is.
walk around, I see zero.
Okay.
enforcement.
Myrna, do you want to speak to that and speak to that?
Can I-
language?
can I suggest that we defer to TNE committee and have this come from TNE 2 and
Can't
3,
wait.
B and C?
Yeah, I think that's why it was limited to the parks piece of it, was
Right,
that we wanted to limit it to like our own scope,
Right,
because
Well,
specifically we're
it's-
adding
it's
more
like
costs
my-
to Broadway Vision.
Just-
We didn't want them to be driving through.
I see, but you can't have two different.
Right, I mean, one of them is
Two
super
different-
thin.
There could be two different items, and if
Yeah.
we had it as just the e-bike, the governing the use in the parks, plazas and public spaces, was that if we're adding more plazas, the thought was that we want to make sure that if we're adding them, that they're protected in them, and that's sort of our territory versus the streets, which is more of the teeny territory.
But our territory includes sidewalk.
Yes, some of that is
This is the
still,
Venn diagram of our committee.
Yes.
yeah, that is an ongoing
And I'm-
conversation about.
I've been run
This is
over
maybe the
every day
funnest, huh?
by e-bikes on sidewalk, having the street
Yeah, that
sidewalk.
is also one of the conversations that.
So, I think, to me, I would love more of a definition of what public, I'm worried that public spaces just means parks. To me, that means anything look, it means streets to the extent that it's a section.
Yeah,
But
and not like a pedestrian, like that if it's something that's been made into a plaza,
Right.
even if it's a DOT plaza, it's still
Right.
ours, that's our rule.
Pedestrians are back.
I mean, even the
Right.
crosswalks part of it, then, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just voting for not just to be construed as a big park, that's all, but how do you wish to?
So should we just
Right.
make it public spaces? In all public spaces?
And then put in parentheses. What those could.
Kitty, kick it to you.
Yeah.
Do you think they envision that being problematic?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
do.
I,
Stepping
What
on
do you
toes or
think?
something? Or-
it is a
It's a
current,
contentious
it's a current
topic.
Okay.
contentious
Is
item
there kind
of
of view that some
who
people don't think
owns-
there's a problem?
who owns
Or are we
what
just talking about jurisdiction?
piece of it. It's a jurisdictional thing. I am happy to add it. Michael, you were on the.
And,
TV committee. Do you have
there is a large portion of the T and E committee which does not care,
Okay, Yeah.
which is
that's what I
unfortunate,
was really
but
thinking of.
I think,
Yeah.
there's some.
it's a
I think the
split.
problem is the enforcement is not happening at all. So that has identified a series of issues across the city for
Right.
many of us who do or may not use bikes.
What if we added it where we just repeat ourselves and one of them is overall enforcement and then the next point is enforcement in like particularly in any newly created parks, open spaces.
I love that.
So what if we just,
So as we're growing.
we're gonna repeat ourselves more. And then if it gets struck, it gets struck. Kim, did you have something to say on this in particular? It looked like you had.
I made some comments in the
Okay.
document, but
Okay.
nothing
Do you wanna
major.
highlight them
Yeah, I think.
for us?
I think that under 0.8 around the public realm improvement fund. It feels slightly editorial, just in terms of our comments around it's unlikely that developers would need or want to use this. So I'm not sure, we might just want to check our tone there a little bit. And then on 0.13 around funding existing parks and open spaces, that just feels so important. And is there a way to, yeah,
Maybe.
it feels
Goes
really
behind
buried in
yeah.
that section. But I love it. I think everything included is great. Then I just had a comment when we were talking about the heat island mitigation, maybe just to make that a little more specific to around what we're allocating. So annual capital funding specifically for these priority corridors. But those are my only notes. That look great.
Yeah, I think that some of it, this is where my conversations with all of the other committees came in specifically around the heat island stuff and that. I think if we phrase it as
What's a feed island?
a heat island,
Heat.
where it's very hot in certain spots. But if we can phrase that, Michael, if we can phrase that as, going reverse order here, as like the feasibility study. That this falls under, the thought was that some of this stuff might get taken out by the other committees at exec. And so most of what we want needs to be phrased as a study. And then within that, advocating extremely hard for the actual thing to happen. So that was the recommendation, to not be creating new policy
Right.
as we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Which you're
gets
saying, yeah.
complicated because this is,
It's like put it all in one point that starts with, to your point, study or research.
yeah. It starts to get,
In order to XYZ, in order, and then.
and then if nobody has any complaints about 0.13 getting moved to the top, I very much support that. I don't know. Since that we are currently at 1% of funding. But it was something that most other committees overlook, so. And then as far as the editorializing goes, does anyone have any specific changes to me? Or suggestions? Kim, do you wanna
Yeah,
take a stab at how to make it a little bit less? This is an amalgamation of many.
I'm sure. And it's not wrong. Probably.
So as we start to wrap up a little bit here. I want to make sure we hear from everyone. Has anyone who's not commented so far have something burning urgent to say about this?
What about if it's just burning and not urgent, or just urgent and not burning?
Well, speak now because I'm gonna
Okay,
open it up for public
Okay.
comment and then then we're gonna move on and be done with this part. Michael.
okay, so, I spend a lot of time in the area, and a lot of the times I spend in PUPs. Because I have a group of 10 to 40 people, and I'm giving them a talk about the history of the Garment District or the Flatiron District or Union Square District or one of these places. And I need space to talk to them, and I find these spaces where I'm able to do that. And the spaces are owned by the building. For example, 1411 Broadway, if you're familiar with that building, between 39th and 40th Street, 7th Avenue and Broadway. And there's plazas in the front and the back, which enable the building to go all the way up by the zoning variance of 1961. If you give space to the public, you can go high straight up. You're all familiar with that. But the people who control that space are the building, because they own the space. And they can tell me, get the hell out of here, you're making too much noise.
So that goes to enforcement and enforcing the existing laws as they are, of who can be in the space and what types of activities are allowed to occur within PUFs. That is why we have the enforcement thing, but definitely talk to me because I think that you would be a fantastic candidate for the working group on POPs enforcement and evaluating our current state of POPs and what's being enforced, what's there, whether they have the water fountain that's operational, if the hours are available, if they need more greenery and all of that kind of thing. Anyone online? All right, seeing no hands, I will briefly move to public comment on points of agreement for the Parks and Public Spaces Committee for the Midtown South rezoning. Is there any member of the public who would like to make a statement? Please raise your hand and I will acknowledge you. And then you can speak. You can use the raise hand feature. Okay, seeing none. Is everyone good?
Take this to the vote.
Are there any additional changes or modifications to this that someone wants to make or suggest? Enhance, rework? Policy anyone's gonna sneak through? Okay,
Motion to approve.
do I have a second?
As amended, yes?
Yeah, as amended with the sort of notes that are, the language isn't exactly finalized, but we will make sure that the notes are adjusted. So, John,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Libby.
Yeah.
Michael Kabak,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Annie,
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
I am a yes, and then Myrtle.
Yes.
Oh. Resolution passes 11-0-0-0. Cool.
Hey,
That was,
well
Not bad,
done,
an hour.
team. I'd like to congratulate all of you on moving as quickly through that as possible and advocating for parks and taking big swings. Fantastically well done. Okay, so moving on to our next item is a review of the Nomad Jazz Festival. And just as a point of information, I have a conflict and so I will need to leave. Michael Southworth will be taking on my role as chair to chair the remainder of the meeting. I will leave at my out, but in case that happens during this presentation, the following one, I just wanted to alert everyone to that administrative change. Okay. Okay, so introducing our next item is the review of the Nomad Jazz Festival to take place August 9th to 10th in Madison Square Park. Michael Kabak has taken on reviewing this new event. Just a reminder to everyone, if we can keep our comments and questions brief, we will take questions, and then we will take comments from the public, and then we will go into discussion. But keeping all of our items as brief as possible and all of our discussions brief as possible, because we have a very, very packed agenda.
Am I up?
Yes, you are up.
Thanks. So, this was postponed from last month's meeting, and I spoke with David. He's not, and he told me people are gonna come on the,
Hi, I'm here. I'm here to
on
talk.
that. So what's really interesting here is, the comment that we had earlier from a Mr. Richard Schulman, which happens to dovetail right into what we're talking about here, which is the noise factor, which is always a big deal in terms of these public spaces in these public events in public parks, and how they affect the people who are next door neighbors. So I would like to hear the presentation. I'm excited for any event that would raise money for our great parks, Madison Square Park, Bryant Park, Union Square Park, etc. But there's certain complications that have to do with a loud event like this. And poor Mr. Schulman and the other people in his building who are complaining about this as a noise problem. And I see we have Holly Lick here, who happens to be the #1 person at that park. Maybe we could get all of this straightened out by having the presentation made by whoever it is. I understand David isn't going to be here. Some other gentleman or woman's going to be here. I don't know who that is.
I'm right here. Good afternoon.
And Miss right here, I don't get a name. I'm not seeing her name. Is that Miriam Fedora?
Yes, Miriam Federa.
Miriam, maybe you could tell us about your event and what you're doing to alleviate the concerns of people in the neighborhood like Mr. Schulman.
Okay. All right. We're going to address all the concerns, but I want to give you a little bit of background on the event. First, I'm going to share my screen. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. So let's go into slideshow mode. So Madison Square Park is the location of Nomad Jazz Festival taking place on August 9th and 10th. This event is presented by the Nomad Alliance. The mission of the festival is to bring world-class music to the park, to enhance the businesses, enhance the neighborhood. And we're doing this all with support of a lot of great partners, community partners, and we're presenting and we're hoping to really build up the community engagement this summer in the neighborhood. So again, I said the Nomad Jazz Festival is being produced by the Nomad Alliance. We have some great partners. Those are the park is our venue partner. Our music and content and artistic director partner is the Jazz Gallery, which I happen to be at their 30th anniversary gala today. They've been in the neighborhood for a very long time. They're a phenomenal artistic partner. And then our marketing partners and festival week partner is the Flatiron Nomad Partnership. Festival week is the week leading up to the big festival, which is the festival week is August 3rd through 8th. We've reached out to a lot of community businesses and establishments to see if they want to get involved in the festival. We've got a lot of great support. And then also the Flatiron Nomad Partnership is helping to present and support and sponsor events that are going to be happening in and around the neighborhood. There are no events happening in the park during festival week, but I just wanted you guys to know what's kind of the lead up to the festival. And this is our main stage lineup, which we have some really amazing performers. There's just one on August 10th that we're waiting to confirm, but this will be pretty much the final lineup. Along with the main stage performances, there'll be a morning family concert. I've got some information here. And then on the Saturday, the August 9th, we're discussing with Asaseya, which is a cultural foundation, to do some mid-set programs that are not amplified, but they will be taking place at the in and around the festival location, which I'll go into in just a minute. We're hoping to have some lawn games if the lawn's okay, a face painting booth, and then all of our partners, which I already spoke about, would have a tent and be represented at the event. And we are currently in talks with Shake Shack about a potential beer garden. I want to keep in mind this is April. We wanted to come to you early on. I wasn't able to come to you last month, but we still have 3 more months to go. So many of these items are TBD, but just want to be transparent and share the whole vision here. We're also discussing a VIP sponsor pass program. This is also another way for the Nomad Alliance and the Nomad Jazz Festival to be able to raise funds for the event. And we're going to do it by hopefully selling around 100 passes per day. And those passes would get folks a chair with a seat cushion, a festival poster, and access to our backstage area. This is happening in Madison Square Park. You know, our hope is that we can do this on the lawn on a nice good weather day on Saturday, August 9th. If not, we'll move to the gravel. I should also mention that I was the director of public programs at Madison Square Park for 10 years, from 2010 to 2020. I love and care for this park, and we're going to make sure that we are taking care of the lawn and we're taking care of the space as well as we can. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about trash in just a minute. I just want to just give you a little bit of a layout of what the park looks like. I'm sure you're very familiar. And this is what we are proposing right now as our setup. So if in the case on Saturday that we have great weather and the lawn's in good shape for us to be able to go on, we're going to have the stage, which is right here. And also, you know what I want to introduce? I have a colleague with me today too. I have both Kevin Dobbins and Eric Fairchild, who's the COO of Rainbow Sound. They're with us to also help to troubleshoot, answer any questions that you have about setup and production. And they will also be really useful to talk about sound. I don't know if the two of you could unmute, or Eric, if you can unmute.
Hey, how's it going? Eric Fairchild here. Thanks for Kevin here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. Sorry, I should introduce you earlier on. Okay, so I'm going to let Eric speak a little bit about where the stage location is. These other spaces, it's pretty self-explanatory where the tents are going to go, and some porta potties. One will be an ADA porta potty and another one will be a general event potty.
Sure. So I think, as we heard before, our concern is volume levels outside of the park, right? So our goal here is to keep all of the sound contained within inside the park. I'm also going to share my screen. Can I take over, Miriam?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me share on for a second here.
Go for it.
So I have over 20 years experience doing sound in New York City parks. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So our proposed location for our stage is right here in the oval, right? So what I've created a plot here of your audience area and to map our decibel level in and around the park. So our goal is to focus the direction of the speakers within the park, keep that sound contained within there, not disturbing the neighbors. And as you'll see, once it's done calculating here, so this is what our plot is going to look like here. And I think Miriam has this in her slideshow as well. So our goal, like I said, is to kind of keep the sound focus in the audience area, mitigate spill over to the outside here. I'm dropping decibel markers here. These are A-weighted in low 80s, low 80 decibels here, right in the outskirts of the park on 5th Avenue. And just for reference, the noise code guide provided by New York City Environmental Protection categorizes Midtown Manhattan traffic noise at 70 to 85 decibels. Okay, so our goal is to be quieter than the traffic around it. So that is what I wanted to share with you here. Is that good enough for now, Miriam?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I know you have a lot on the agenda today too, everybody, so I'm gonna try to speed through this a little bit better. As I said, if we need to, and we are already planning on Sunday being our gravel location, this is what the setup looks like. And we would just move out. And if we needed to, if the lawn is wet or, just unable for us to be on it, then we'll move everything out into the fountain area and be on hard surface, not on the lawn. I shared this with the committee before, but this is just a view of like what the run of show will be from the moment we load in, and how we make our weather calls, which is, each day we'll decide by 5 p.m. the day before. And, again, we're having a family concert in the morning. That'll be a 10:30 show. And then our other main stage performances will be 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. And then we load out. We're hiring security. I don't know if you know the company Star Watch, but they're going to be on site with us for 24 hours, starting on August 8th at 9 a.m. And they're going to stay with us all the way till August 10th at 10 p.m. And I have some extra members on site for during the festival, overseeing the grounds, backstage area, and our artist support. And Eric introduced himself, but didn't, honestly, one of the things that we're very excited about in doing this festival is working with Rainbow Sound and all of the experience that they bring to the table. They're going to be our lead in audio, staging, backline, and lighting. And so I really, I know you met Eric already before. Eric's also happy to answer some of these questions. I'm just going to scroll through, Eric, and you talk.
Sure. Okay, so this is our stage as we went over the proposed location on the slideshow there. We're going to enter on Madison and 25th, I believe. We're going to keep on the paved road as much as we can. And then when we pull on the grass, any ground supports supporting the stage, we are going to place protection there for any weight load points to mitigate any erosion or damage to the field. Like I said, we've worked in just about every park in New York City and never had a complaint about their grass. So it's not our goal to damage it. We're going to do our best to protect it. We also have, in addition to that mobile stage that's towed in by the pickup, we'll have some sound wings on each side, the 12 by 12 wings there. And again, we'll protect the grounds. Any load bearing points will be protected. And this was the plot on the oval lawn location. I've since refined it a bit to kind of direct that sound more into the oval area. And we also have a plot of the gravel location proposed. Here we go. So again, our goal really to be as loud as traffic once you hit the street, right? Contain the audio within the park, keep the neighbors happy. And just an example of this is the lighting package here. So this is an event we did for Summer Stage in Flushing Meadows last year, I believe. Just a rough, kind of picture of what our setup will be like.
All right. And then I'll just quickly go over, for trash and event maintenance, we are taking full responsibility. The Nomad Alliance is taking responsibility. I'm in the process of getting estimates for a company that can help and support with trash cleanup and also hauling too for the trash. And just to give you a glance where we're at with park signage, we're talking about putting these feather banners at the park entrances and lawn entrances, utilizing some signboard stands. I believe I put 2 in the map that I sent you. Having banners in front of the 10 by 10 tents that are mainly our partner tents. And then this is what stage banners could look like for our stage, but our designer has not gotten as far to design this. So I don't want to commit to saying how many or what the stage banners will look like, but it could look up to this maximum amount. And also, just to speak to any kind of vending, we're planning on having festival merchandise that we can sell, branded water bottles, posters, perhaps maybe even a cap. Again, not confirmed. And as I said already before, it's April. We're producing this event August 9th and 10th. There's a lot that still needs to happen. And so I just want to be transparent and sharing all of the things that still need to be kind of tied up And that is this list of things here. And finally, this is our current sponsors. Two foundations and the Nomad Alliance are the sponsors of this event. And I will stop sharing unless it's helpful to keep it up. Will you tell me?
I think that's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So, public or to questions first? From,
Up to you.
Okay.
Questions from the committee.
Yeah, let's do-
Again, just really fast agenda.
right, so,
So keeping questions to a true minimum.
yes,
And then members of the public go to the.
okay. So yeah, anybody in the room have a question? Michael?
Okay, so could we put back up some of the slides that we saw before?
Okay.
Words, so I could ask a question about the one showing the direction that the stage is facing. Well, if it's gonna be on the lawn and there's no rain and it's on the regular lawn, could you show the orientation of that stage and how the music noise is going to be decimated, segregated,
Yeah,
sent out, dated?
sure. I just pulled that up right now.
So that's the second, now I saw two. One
So
that's
this is if
facing,
we were to be on the gravel area.
say it again slow.
So if you look above the header, this is for the gravel. And
If it's on
this one is
gravel,
oval
slow.
lawn.
So let's do one at a time. Want to do this one first? This one shows the stage facing Fifth Avenue.
Mhm.
Great, because nobody lives really on Fifth Avenue. It's all it's all commercial. And show me the other one when if it's gonna be on the gravel, please. And that's facing,
It's facing towards
26th
Madison.
Street
Mhm.
and 26th Street. All right?
Yeah.
No, it's facing Madison.
Yeah, it's
So this-
facing Madison and like, it's at the angle of the Shake Shack,
Orientation.
essentially.
The other one. So just let me get my bearings here. Yeah, Madison, that's where people are living on Madison. The hotel's on Madison. And that big building that I think Mr. Schulman lives in is over there. So we're gonna hope that that's a sunny day and it doesn't bother anybody. Have you agreed with the Conservancy that if you do damage the grass in my park that I love so dearly, you will fix it, or are they gonna have to fix it?
No, that's our responsibility.
Can't hear you. You will fix it or they will fix it?
We will pay for the fixing. I'm like, I will not visibly.
Okay,
We will pay for it.
okay.
Michael, it's Holly Light. I want to be totally transparent because I don't think it was clear totally in Miriam's and I want you guys to know this. We are requiring that day 2 is on the gravel regardless of weather in order to protect the lawn. We have too many concerns of having 1,000 people on the lawn both days that we have asked them to move day 2 to the gravel. So I hear you on your concern about the hotel, but I don't want that not to be clear, that one day is on the lawn if the weather is good and the other day is on the gravel to protect.
Or there. Okay, I got it. Sorry about that, Mr. Schulman. But we're gonna be concerned by these two gentlemen who are noise experts that we're gonna be at a minimum. So the people in those buildings are gonna be protected, right, Holly?
You got it.
Can you tell us something about the merchandise that you're selling and that slide went really quick. I saw a water bottle, what else? Hat and
This is pretty
poster.
preliminary. Yeah, we are hoping to have, if we can, do a water bottle refill station. So it would be great if we could sell some branded water bottles. We're working with a local print company in the neighborhood to print the Nomad Jazz Festival posters. We'd like to sell those at the event. And I'm not quite sure about hats yet, but I just want to, again, it's up for discussion within our group. So sharing that with you.
Okay, and those water bottles, hats, or whatever you're gonna be selling are gonna be encased in some kind of a wrapper or protection or some kind of baggage that will be there's plans to get rid of that stuff neatly and not being on the ground?
Yes, we will ensure that we're not creating extra trash. And we are also taking responsibility for collecting all the trash and carting it.
But there's gonna be trash, so have you dealt with the park with regard to additional receptacles to alleviate some of that extra trash problem?
We're in talks with the parks about what we need to do and what we can do.
So I
But
shouldn't worry about dirtying up my park, right?
I don't want to dirty up the park. That's not our
Okay.
goal. No, we are gonna leave the park better than the way we came.
Better, oh my.
Well, I'm gonna try.
Now, 24-hour security, this is so vandals don't go in at night and do bad to the equipment, I
I mean,
guess,
this
right?
is, yeah, we have a stage there sitting overnight. It's gonna close up.
Somebody's
But
gonna sleep
still,
in a park?
Definitely not sleep.
we're not hiring anyone to sleep in the park. We're hiring them to
I
watch.
think the park is closed, right? At a certain time it closes down, is that correct?
The park does close, but when we have security on other events that have gone over more than a night, we allow security to stay in the park all night.
That's great. Okay, that's for me.
Okay.
Catherine?
I'm here. Thank you. The presentation is helpful with the layout. I just wanted to emphasize that while New York City noise code is, and you should take a look at that as a framework and a blueprint, while it talks about hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., and this event falls outside of that, what we're trying to do here is balance residential life with the vibe, with the good city vibes that we all enjoy. Nothing like in the summertime being outside listening to some music. And so one way is to really give some serious thought to the framework in the noise code about what sound does. And the other way is to listen to the neighbors. So I'm asking the Conservancy, are you reaching out to neighbors to inform them that, because we've had some feedback. And the other way is to post that we'll be having a jazz festival. And so that people know that it, but it is ending at a reasonable hour, but you want to make some effort to understand the framework of the New York City Noise Code, which gives you somewhat of a blueprint to speak from. That's what I expected, not just you understand traffic, but understand that noise carries with crowds. And so neighbors get the brunt of that for a long period of time. So
I understand that. Is there a recommendation that you have on how to inform the neighbors, of how?
I think we've now collected all the information for the residential buildings around it. We were asked to do that last year. I think that's a great suggestion. So the Conservancy can take on making sure that we provide notice to all the buildings right around the park.
And
I
could just
continue, Catherine.
and when you speak, use the noise code document, because it's a public document that the public, so like the public needs to remember that there is a noise code and this is what we're talking about together. That's why I use that as a framework. Not the research here is brilliant, but we don't often get that when we're doing this kind of application. But the noise code is a way to speak on the same, everybody speaking this from the same point of view and language, and we're balancing residential life with New York City vibes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles?
Thank you. I was wondering, could you maybe give a bit more details on are the jazz instruments actually going to be mic'd up, or are they playing just naturally without being mic'd? And what exact instruments are we talking about? Because of course there's a big difference between you know, DJ music blaring out a speaker in a parade versus, you know, someone playing the saxophone or a bass or a piano. And I was also wondering, have you thought about using a sensory bus, such as the Times Square Alliance has done, and even Lincoln Center, for those guests who might feel overwhelmed, maybe due to being neurodiverse or having autism and things like that, where they need some space to have some quiet time. Have you thought about the organization that has been, I forgot the name, so do forgive me, that has been running that sensory van to quite a few outdoor events now? I was just wondering, have you thought about incorporating that into some of your live music events in the park moving forward? Thank you.
I could answer the first part for you, Miriam. Yes, the instruments will be mic'd. We're providing sound reinforcement services. So we want to amplify, like I said, amplify the instruments and have the audio stay within that designated area we're trying to hit. And the instrumentation, we're going to have traditional jazz setups. We're also going to have big bands. So there's a lot of, you know, quartets, quintets, piano, bass, drums, vocalists, and then there's a whole horn section with our big band. But that's the first part I could help you with, Miriam.
I think the second part's really for the park, actually, and it's interesting. Your timing is impeccable. We have been working a lot with Visions, which you probably know is nearby for visually impaired. And actually today, our senior programs manager and I had a call with the Helen Keller Services about potentially doing a silent disco, which I think is what you're referring to, the Lincoln Center did. And we are talking about doing an event for visually and hearing impaired that would be quiet, so our neighbors would certainly like it, for the summer, actually. So separate from this, but we are looking at potentially doing exactly that for the 35th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act, which is this year.
Great, thank you. Anyone else on the committee with questions?
I just want to know what that software was that you used to map the decibel levels.
Yeah, that's called Venue Synthesis, and it's a program provided by the speaker manufacturer. So it's JBL Venue Synthesis. It's a free program, and you can, you know, I just mapped in the PA we plan on providing for the event. You know, I could set the angles, I could articulate, I could set delays, and then I could plot your decibel map.
Very cool.
Great, thank you. I actually have one question, which is about the sponsorship arrangement. That right now it appears the sponsors are not-for-profits and particularly kind of relevant to the neighborhood. What is the chance that that will change and that there will be for-profit commercial sponsors with logos or things anywhere, or is there like a commitment that that's not going to happen? There are only certain types of sponsors you guys are entertaining.
Yeah, we certainly are trying to do, you know, the majority of our outreach is local. But when it comes to, we haven't made a specific commitment to sticking to foundations. But we do have some other foundation applications that are out there. So we might be getting more funding through those. And, you know, at this point, we're 3 months away. You know, I would maybe say I can come back to you and tell you if we have anybody else, but that would be on a corporate level. That's what you're asking.
Right, I am asking just because that sort of does make it a little difficult we can't really approve blanket sponsors being present in a public park. So if it were to change materially, I believe we would want you to come back.
I can tell you right now that there's, the asks that are out there are, I would say we're pretty much sticking to local asks and no big brand sponsor right now.
Got it. And Michael?
So just, I have to write this up, so I need to ask some questions. People are gonna pay money to to hear this club up close on chairs that are set up in front of the stage. Is that correct?
Let me show you. First of all, I maybe didn't do the greatest job, but like Holly said at the beginning about, speaking to the festival itself. This is a free festival. And
Oh, it's free.
it is absolutely very much of a free festival. Here's a map that I'll pull up for you right now. This is the oval lawn. And I have kind of winged areas that will have chairs for VIP seating. And also for anyone who needs a chair, who's coming in, who's ADA, that needs something to sit on, I'm gonna hand them a chair and they're welcome to sit in those spaces as well, so.
So the blue squares are chairs,
Let
area?
me pull it up a little bit better for you. So you see this area at the wings of the stage where it says VIP and ADA chairs, 50 chairs each.
And it's free. So how do you make
No.
money?
The festival is free. We're making money. This is being funded by the Nomad Alliance. We are, selling VIP tickets. We have sponsorships, and we're producing a wonderful festival.
Sponsors like Simon's are gonna have signs, right? They're gonna have some
Right now,
signs.
Simon's is not interested in doing anything on site. The thing that they are hoping to sponsor, the activation that we're working with them on is a festival week activation that's happening off-site at the Jazz Gallery.
And I guess my last question, because I would like to keep this moving, is that in the future, is there like a plan for expansion down the road? And like if we sort of set a precedent of approving this, and then you all want to come back next year, are we going to end up with like a much bigger festival or something like that? Or is this sort of the scale and scope of what is intended with this kind of event?
We're gonna listen to whatever the park says, as far as what their wishes are, but the intention right now is we're taking it year by year. And that's the nature of programming too. We'll evaluate at the end of this and see how the festival went, how the model was, and how the neighborhood really kind of changed during this time as well, so.
And the agreement we have with the festival is just for this year for now, so there's no sort of ongoing commitment. We just have a 1-year agreement with them for right now.
Right, that's very helpful. And one last thing, so that we can.
Yeah, real quick. Do you plan to take photos of people who are attending this thing? And if so, how are you going to handle that? And can you show the posters again after you answer that first question?
Right now I do plan on taking photos, but I have not come up with a plan. In the past, whenever I've done any kind of photography, especially in Madison Square Park, we've posted notifications. And I will, if in the case that we do decide to move forward with photography and I have a stronger plan, we'll make sure that people know that they're being photographed.
Okay, now we have a very diligent member who didn't raise his hand, Mr. Todd. And he usually monitors this. So could you make sure if you do take photos of the public during this, that we are notified of that and how you're going to handle it? If you do have these photos, can we make sure of that, please, Miriam?
Yep.
Can I just add something here?
Todd, go.
Todd, you can.
Michael, can I address the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so Miriam, the policy of our board has always been that the use of digital imagery must be in compliance with New York State law, which requires as much as possible to obtain the written permission of anybody using the park that's adjacent or within the area of the event before it can be used. So just based on the little bit that I'm hearing, it's not enough to simply inform the people that you're taking the photographs. You must have a policy or plan in place if you're going to take the pictures to get the express permission of the people there to use their digital images. The only exception being de minimis use where you're getting the back of their heads or they're so far away that you can't even see who they are. So with that in mind, if and when you do come up with a policy, please forward any disclaimers or any postings so we can take a look at it and give you our comments.
Okay,
And that's the only, is this the only poster you plan on using?
please say more. What do you mean by only poster?
And what are the
No,
dimensions?
they showed several other
Yeah, I know.
types of.
What are the dimensions of these posters and how many?
Right now, I'm not planning on posting any posters anywhere. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. So anyone else from the committee? Because I'd like to keep this moving, because we're gonna be here all night. So I will briefly open this up to the public for public comment. If there's anybody that would like to comment on this activation, please raise your hand and I will recognize you. Okay, seeing none, we'll go into business session and open it up for comments from the committee. And just as Libby said, I'm gonna try and keep as many of these discussions as brief as possible. And see how quickly we can get to consensus, because we have a lot of things to still do. So does anybody have anything to comment on this? Members of the committee present or members of the committee online? Michael.
I think this is great. It's gonna benefit our park, and anything that does that is great. They sound like they're very conscientious, and regarding sound and cleanup, I'm all for this, supported completely.
Anyone else in the room? Any members of the committee online? Okay, can I get a motion from someone?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Could I friendly amend that to just sort of recognize some of the, just, you'll include the conversation?
Absolutely.
Great. Okay, so we will take that to a vote. Bear with me 1 second, since I am not here,
Michael,
so-
Michael?
Yes, Charles?
Sorry, I thought I had my hand raised. I apologize. Can I make a quick comment?
Yes, please.
I just go quickly say, I think it's really important to mention, you know, that, I really believe this event is doing all they can to minimize the sound. I just wanted to quickly, if you don't mind, very fast circle back to our concerned member of the public, which is I am one of those members who attended that parade yesterday. As some of you guys might know, I even emailed committee members earlier this morning, and it's the first time, and I've been to the Persian Day Parade in the past. It's the first time they've ever used so much amplified music on every single float, and extremely loud music. And it's quite sad because they did reassure us that they would, abide by the decibel limit, even asking us in our due diligence meeting of what the decibel level should be, and reassuring us that their sound guys would make sure it wouldn't be that loud. I just want to say one last thing really quick. The other problem is when the floats are not moving and they're at a standstill, they're still playing the music. And at the very end of the route, they're still playing music, even when they're at the end, when there's no more parade routes. So it is something I hope in the future we can discuss. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you, Charles.
Note something if possible.
I'm sorry, we're in business session. It's not appropriate for you to speak at this point. So the Charles, your comment is taken, and moving for the future with the parades. I'm sure that next year we will re-examine that, but this is a sort of very, very different event and very different sort of sound profile and sound pattern, it looks like. So I think we're ready to take this to a vote. Let's see, John?
Yeah.
Catherine?
Yes.
Libby is gone. Mr. Kavak?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Todd,
Yes.
I am a yes. Myrtle is a yes. Sorry, I shouldn't have spoken over you. That's incorrect. My apologies. So the resolution passes 10-0-0-0, and thank you to all of you for coming and presenting. Sorry for cutting you off, Eric. I just wanted to keep this moving, and I think you all made a great presentation. Best of luck with the event, and please do come back to us if something like material changes and you think we should be aware of what's going on. But other than that, best of luck. And similarly, Charles, sorry if I was a little quick about the parades for next year. I imagine this is going to be a long conversation on a different day, especially because there are more parades and events like that going forward that we're going to have to address specifically, probably even this year, and not even waiting till next year, but looking at it this summer. So, okay, moving on. Next on the agenda, we have the update from Union Square Partnership on their spring and summer programming. Who is presenting for that?
That would be me, Ed Janoff.
Great. Thank you, Ed. You are recognized and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Michael, and members of CB5 Parks and Public Spaces Committee. My name is Ed Janoff. I'm the Deputy Director and Chief Strategy Officer of Union Square Partnership. And so I'm here tonight just to present our annual plans for programming for Union Square Park, which we do every spring. I will try to move quickly in the interest of time on your packed agenda. And I'll also say I'm happy to answer as many questions as possible. Also, like the item you just saw, a lot of these events are happening into the summer. So if you want follow-up presentations, follow-up questions, etc., always happy to continue to dialogue. And then also everything I'm presenting except for one event, which is the one I have the least details on, are all events that happened last year or in prior years. But what's changing is some of the scheduling and some of the strategy here for our public programming. So with that, I'm going to move into a screen share. Make sure I do this properly. All right. Are you seeing the presentation, or are you seeing my speaker notes?
Yes, we are. It looks great.
Okay, great. So I will skip this slide, but just so you know, we're very busy this time of year getting the park and the district looking nice. I also wanted to just mention that the DOT Broadway plazas were basically doubled in size last year. This is Broadway 17 to 18. And we don't have any planned events for this space, but we did recently enter into a concession agreement with New York City DOT to be the official managers of this plaza. We've been maintaining these spaces since 2010, but unlike, Flatiron, Herald, et cetera, we've never actually had a contract with the city to do it. We do now, and that means that commercial events that do take place here do generate revenue to offset our costs of maintenance. We have been seeing a lot of event requests for this space as they've gotten bigger. And so, we will be in coordination with the Street Activity Permit Office as soon as our contract is registered, automatically anytime there's an event here. And, happy to kind of watch how these spaces maybe get used differently now that they're bigger, and maybe need to have some conversations with the community or community board about that, because I think there were one or two recently that came in that we didn't have a lot of advance notice of. Some of them were large, some of them amplified sound, which we know folks don't want. So I think there's a little bit of a new learning curve that these spaces are larger, and so this is just me saying that we're interested in kind of watching, talking to SAPO, talking to you guys, and making sure that everything is, the way we want it to be.
Right.
Every year since 2021, we have been doing a street mural on 14th Street between University Place and Broadway. This was a pedestrian space that was created when the busway was implemented in 2019. And so, in order for it to qualify as temporary art, each year we need to replace it. And this year we have an exciting new proposal from artist Yuki Lee, and we always work with, emerging or unknown artists in New York City. Usually we get 20 or 30 proposals. This year we got 70, so people are really interested in this canvas these days. And her proposal is called Turning Point, and you can see it there depicted. Again, that's 14th Street on the south end of the square between Broadway and University Place. This is a mural that we would paint over 5 days, mostly with volunteers, from the week of May 12th. So it's Monday, May 12th through Friday, May 16th. And we barricade off that space and paint it. We have to always paint over the previous mural that's there. And so this design is really meant to be about transition and also reflecting the infrastructure, specifically the infrastructure under Union Square. It's kind of like a green roof there over the subway station. And so that would be closing that space, just the pedestrian space, not the sidewalks or the park, the week of, again, May 12th. So for our Summer in the Square program series this year, you know, we've been really taking a look at it coming out of COVID about the way it's used and trying to make it, you know, as effective as possible for our constituents. You know, prior to COVID, the Summer in the Square series was 9 weeks of kind of festival-like all-day programming from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. You would have, you know, concerts over here, kids activities over here, fitness over there, movies over there, kind of a whole park takeover. And as we brought it back, we've been sort of watching what are the programs that are more interesting, popular, well-attended, and in particular, we looked at our community opinion survey. Every year we do an online and email community opinion survey, and we ask people more detailed questions about the programming. And so we were trying to respond to what people really felt like was the most successful they wanted to see. So what we've really changed about the program this year is we're doing fewer programs spread out over more dates and less activity in the park at any one time. So we're not doing days where you're gonna like see the South Plaza, North Plaza, Lawn, Triangle, et cetera, all activated on the same day or at the same time. And then we're focusing on 4 programs in particular that we heard that people really like the most. We are cutting back on the fitness programming, which really has not been well attended since you know, since COVID, and we've been cutting back on the kids programming, which folks were saying the Thursday daytime was not really that useful a time for them to do kids programming. So what we are intent on keeping this year for our Summer in the Square programming series is the Music in the Square by the New School. This is, you know, an unamplified or portably amplified, typically a jazz trio or quartet. Last year it was in the Triangle. This year we want to move it to the Center Lawn. It's relatively quiet. It's sort of ambiance music, but it's got really high marks in our community opinion survey. And I think with the Center Lawn, it will be easier to appreciate and probably reach more people than over in the Triangle by Zeckendorf, by the hospital, where it's kind of out of the way and loud. And so instead of doing 6 dates or 9 dates, we are upping that to 20 dates. So we're doing this small program. We're going to do many, many more dates. You actually have 20 consecutive Thursdays where you would have like a small jazz trio or quartet in the gravel area at the Center Lawn. The movies seem to be one of the most popular items, although we've been experimenting the last 2 years with doing them on the Center Lawn, and that has not been as successful as in the past when they were on the North Plaza in front of the pavilion. So we're going to move the movies from the lawn back to the North Plaza, which is also nice because it does not risk any damage to the lawn. Just the lawn, you know, if it happens to have rained recently. And so we'd be doing 4 evenings of movie nights back into the North Plaza. And you can see those dates, July 21st, 31st, 7th, and 21st of August. This will be sponsored. So we have a company, you know, that's related to movies and movie production that is going to sponsor this. But unfortunately, I cannot announce that yet. And so if you need me to come back, once that information is available, I'm happy to do so. As of like today, we have been approached about, not as of today approached, but as of today, I think it's looking likely that we will want to do a one-day comedy show in the center of the park. There is somebody who's organizing a Union Square Comedy Festival for like indoor venues around the square. And they're interested in doing a one-night comedy show in the Center Lawn. So not a stage, just kind of somebody standing on platforms, you know, like 18-inch platforms. It wouldn't be ticketed, it wouldn't be barricaded, it would, you know, not have a big announcement. It would be meant to have a, you know, a small crowd of maybe a couple hundred people. And the first thing I said before I can present to the community board is what would the content be? Because that was like my first concern was, you know, community comedy can get a little blue. And they said, you know, PG-13, nothing more than you would expect to see in any of the movies that we would show. In fact, the words I got was nothing more controversial than the movie Moonstruck, for whatever that means. I don't have more details on that other than to say it would be in the evening on Thursday, June 5th, in the gravel area of the center lawn, free, open to the public, and, you know, small footprint. The other two things that we'd be bringing back are the night market and pickleball. So last year, we worked with Urban Space, who produces the holiday market, to experiment with a pilot of a food market on the South Plaza of Union Square. And that also got extremely high marks from our community opinion survey. People said that, you know, in particular, that the South Plaza is an area that can be, you know, it can be challenging. And they said that, you know, people really like the vibe of having, you know, a food market, you know, prepared food market, also with seating on the South Plaza. So last year we tried 4 dates and on 4 weeks. And this year we are experimenting with 29 dates over 16 weeks. So it would be, I think the total number of dates that we talked for Thursdays would be 20. This program would be happening on both Thursdays and on Fridays. So in the last year, it was only on Summer in the Square Thursdays. And this year we're experimenting with also having it be on Fridays. So 16 Thursdays and 13 Fridays, basically to see how that goes. And so some of the days it will overlap with the Summer in the Square programming, and some of the days it will not. So the dates are there on the screen. It's Thursdays and Fridays from May 22nd to October 17th, except not in July and August, where it would not be on Thursdays or Fridays, except for 3 Thursdays, which are movie nights. So it's a little bit complicated, but the basic idea is that the number one complaint that we got is that it was just too hot on the South Plaza in the middle of summer, July and August. And so the idea is to really put it on the shoulders of the hot season in May, June, and September, October, where we think that people would be able to enjoy it more without, you know, having to leave or being sizzling in their spot. And then the last program is pickleball. This is the only one where we're changing it from more dates to fewer. In the past, pickleball had been 6 dates with 4 courts reserved in advance, online, free, by people who wanted to play pickleball in matches. This year, instead of doing 4 dates, we're just doing 1 day, Thursday the 21st, of all-day programming. The feedback that we heard about pickleball is basically that it didn't offer enough for people to do. It was just basically like courts and something to look at. So it's being changed to more of like a pickleball activity being produced by City Pickle. And so what they will do is have, instead of doing the like courts, all we did was like run tape on the pavement last couple of years, they will actually build 2 professional courts. And what they will do is have activities that will be free public activities that will be run by their programming. So they'll have instruction, clinics. They're going to have professional pickleball exhibition and kind of like a mock pro tournament in the evening. And I think that they said there's a real tournament that weekend in Central Park. And so that is how they're able to get these pros, is because they'll actually already be around for that other tournament in the park. So this will have sponsor activation. So you would have 2 center courts. The photo that you see there is courts that they built at Atlantic Center. And then there'd be a few pop-up tents for different activities like the instructors, and then also sponsor activations there as well. So 1 day City Pickleball, and then that's it for now. So I'm happy to take any questions.
I think I'll open this up to questions, but just to say something quickly while we're on it, is just to keep in mind that there were fires at other sort of urban space markets, et cetera. So just to be careful and be engaged with the NY New York Fire Department and the like sort of new protocols that they've been putting together to ensure that there are no more fires at these park driven events.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. The fires were at Urban Space Markets, and actually both the Parks Department and FDNY have gone through really a new round of review requirements for all of these markets. And so everything will be under the new rules and guidelines that they're working through.
Cool. So having said that, I'll open it up to questions from the committee. Anyone in the room have any questions? Mr. Kabak.
Yeah, a couple. So you're having comedy, Jerry Seinfeld on June 5th, is that it? Little comedy there? No, not Jerry Seinfeld. Hello? That was a question. Mr. Mr. Edjanoff? You're having a comedian, but you don't know who it is.
They
on
haven't
June
disclosed.
5th.
Yes, they haven't
Okay.
disclosed who it is.
The food market is prepared food as opposed to the green market, which is raw food or unprepared food. Are they gonna be on the same dates, Thursday and Fridays? Is that, the other market, the not cooked food market, does that happen on Thursdays and Fridays as well?
So the green market is Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So it would not be on a Thursday. It would be on a Friday. So this year on the 13 Fridays, there would be the food market in the South Plaza and the farmers market in the North Plaza.
Right, and, okay. Okay, and the proper, of course, cleanliness is gonna be, one more thing. The pickleball, I don't understand where that is. Is that 14th Street that's getting blocked up right there?
No, so this is an image of the courts from Atlantic Center in Brooklyn. The pickleball courts will be in the same place they were the last 2 years, which is on the North Plaza, 17th Street in front of the pavilion.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Anyone online? Cool. So, and one other thing while we're in this phase of it, when you do the movie night, I think that once you have the sponsor and production or media company involved in the movies, I would think that it would be prudent to come back to us and like look at that separately carefully, because I imagine it is a commercial activation of some kind that's a little bit separate from the programs. But so just a request that we do that in the future.
Got it.
Cool. And then, so briefly to the public, any public comment on these Union Square partnerships and activations? Okay. Seeing none, I'll move this to comments within the committee. I am not positive that we actually need to vote on this, or if this is even really a voting item. I was gonna say, yeah. Great. So does anybody have any comments before we move on to the next
Just a
agenda
quick
item?
question.
Yeah.
About, is there a charge for the public to attend these, not to buy food, but to attend the pickleball, or to attend the comedy, or to attend the movies, or attend the music? Is it all freebie, or is it, are there charges for any of it?
So it's all,
Sir? Yeah.
yes, it's all free and open to the public. And in fact, the pickleball is the only one where the site plan is of necessity contained. And that's because, you know, you want, it's the courts that would be contained. The tents on the outside would be, you know, if you have a walk-up lesson, sign-up area, if you have a sponsor activation, those would be open, but the courts themselves are barricaded off because you need to sign a waiver in order to use a court. And but otherwise, everything is being open to the public. Some of the activities in pickleball may require advanced registration. So City Pickle has said one of the activities that they're going to be doing, for example, is free clinics for children in partnership with a pickleball charity that teaches children how to play pickleball. So in order to do that, that would have to be, you'd have to sign up for advance. And so we'll look at making sure that that's available in the marketing for the program. We're ready to disseminate it.
Great. Thank you very much. And with that, I mean, it sounds exciting. So best of luck this summer and throughout the fall. And we'll hear back from you once there's more information about the movies. But thank you for presenting to us.
Thank you. And I'll send you more information about comedy too. And you let me know if you want me to come back.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So let's move on to Landing International K-Beauty storefront activation in Bryant Park. Was this you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I believe Jeanette, I saw on here earlier. Okay, perfect. So I spoke with Jeanette and Lisa, who will walk us through. They've got a few updates from their application, but I know it's shared around the committee. Now that we are closer to the date, they have not done this before at Bryant Park, but they've done the same activation across the country. So they are capable and ready to share with us. I've walked them through a few concerns I had earlier, by way of waivers for videos and ensuring that there's plenty of signage, taking care of any sanitation issues and pedestrian services throughout their lines and project, but they will walk us through right now. So Jeanette, the floor is yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeanette Medina. I'm the events manager at Landing International. On May 17th, we will be hosting our K-Beauty Mart. This will be our fourth stop. And what is K-Beauty Mart? We wanted to merge the gap between culture and beauty. So we took the viral concept of a Korean convenience store and transitioned it into K-Beauty Mart. Our booth will be a 30 by 30 space. It will be featured on the upper terrace at Bryant Park. We will be highlighting the top 10 most viral brands in K-Beauty. Some will be Mixsoon, Unleasha, Real Beauty, I'm From, and Some by Me, just to name a few. Our impact truly is high traffic exposure, consumer feedback, and viral content creation. K-Beauty Mart taps into the viral power of TikTok and Instagram, drawing inspiration from popular content, like I just said, about Korean mini marts and leveraging influencer engagement. We will have exclusive giveaways and photo opportunities throughout our activation. Beyond that, we truly wanted to capture the culturally immersive event that elevates Korean beauty into a global lifestyle phenomenon by marrying commerce with cultural storytelling. It's shaping perception and bridges the global beauty community. Some of our past stops, like I said, this is going to be our fourth stop, but our first one started off at Westfield Century City in California. We took it from there to South by Southwest, and our last stop was at Revolve Festival. With all three, we were able to capture 10,000 attendees, 850 being VIP influencers, and we captured a social media reach of 65.6 million on Instagram alone. Some of our logistical plans, as you can see, our site plan, we will be located central of the upper terrace in between the light poles with the 10-foot clearance behind the activation to allow unobstructed pedestrian flow. The booth, although it's not shown here, it will be facing the front of the lawn, the west of this map. Our sanitation plan will consist of partnering with our fabrication company, DC USA. All of waste from gifting, which includes pellets and cardboard boxes, will be collected and disposed of. DC USA will handle the removal process by loading all materials onto their truck during the scheduled load-in hours. Our load-in will consist of May 16th from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's when our structure will be completed from 7 to 10 a.m. on the 17th. We will be merchandising indoor, just doing our final placement. Our activation will run from 12 to 7 p.m. and then our loadout will consist that night from 11 p.m. all the way to 7 a.m. As Bryant Park has requested, our crew will be provided with wristbands. Our crew size is 10. We will require forklift for load in and load out. And our vehicle truck size is 53-footer and 1 Sprinter. Media waivers. So with this being such a massive social content moment, we want to ensure we comply with all of New York City regulations. On top of ensuring that we have physical media waivers for all attendees to sign prior to walking into our booth, we will have signage on our doors throughout our booth and right before all attendees leave and get gifted, just to ensure that we comply with everything. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Is there anything you'd like to add, Annie, before we move into the questions?
I think this is a really large structure, and I know that based on what they described, their former events that they've done elsewhere, capturing a lot of people. So I think consideration of crowd control is something to talk to them about, and specifically thinking of as the days get warmer and people are utilizing the space, it's a high trafficked area. So keeping that top of mind, and if there's any holes there, given previous activations in the space.
Absolutely. Oh, so we do have sanctions that we will have throughout the exterior as close to our booth as possible to ensure we have line flow moving consistently. I do want to note that to run through our entire booth, it takes an attendee less than 2 minutes, so traffic flow will stay consistent.
Got it, thank you. So yeah, I'll open up to questions from the committee. Anybody in the room? Mr. Kabak.
Could you go back to the slide that you showed the dates on, please?
The loading.
4/16? What's today's date?
I think it's just meant to be.
Oh,
May.
I apologize. It's 5/16.
Oh, okay, that would make it more relevant. And it's just 2 days, load in and load out. Okay.
Exactly.
Thanks. Where's it at again?
Bryant Park, Upper Terrace.
In Bryant Park.
It's in the center of the terrace.
On the terrace. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Anyone online have any questions? Okay. I had one actual question myself, which was, is it required that you sign the physical release to enter the activation, or is that an optional part of it? I mean, just because we, as a committee and a board, we are very sensitive to people being able to access events without having to give away their likeness.
It's not mandated for them to sign. And then if those that do not sign, we will take very heavy precaution to ensure that we don't capture like videography, photography of them. If it is, it'll be the back of their head, worst case scenario.
Okay, that's great. Perfect. And then similar to that, there won't be, or will there be, anything like Instagram and TikTok logos branded all over the place? There is
Will
no.
not be.
Sorry.
Inside our booth, we have posters of each brand represented through food, and it's very subtle of what their, for instance, I'm From's Instagram handle is.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
Is it money?
What? Oh, and then to Bryant Park, I assume there is a significant donation or fee involved that is commensurate with the exposure and you're comfortable with?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah, and is there a charge for people who go?
Oh, well, and this is a free event, correct?
This is a free
All of
event,
our-
yes.
yeah, all of our commercial activations are 100% free and open to the public, as always.
Great. And I guess just one other thing, with the merchandising time or something, is there going to be a limited time period where like you invite your VIP influencers or something? And like, will that be, or is it's always 100% open?
It's always 100% open to the public.
Great, thank you. Cool. So,
One quick.
yeah,
Are we talking the park, the plaza in back of the library or by Sixth Avenue? By the fountain?
We are talking about the plaza that is behind the New York Public Library where the current Bryant Park Grill sits.
Thank you.
great. Okay, so moving to public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this activation? Okay, seeing none, comments from in the room? From the committee, anyone have an opinion, something to share, a direction?
I think it's great. Another event in my favorite park, and I'll be there.
Yay!
My only comment is that I mean, it's if we went through the checklist, it's like, it's commercial and all that, but it's not outside the scope of what we've approved in the past, so I don't see any
Right.
need to belabor it any further.
I think ensuring it's open to the public.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you did a good job with vetting sort of the concerns and the normal questions we have, so.
Right.
Okay, so can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the activation.
And and I guess I have to, yeah, any conflicts? I forgot to be doing that. Okay, now let's do this. John?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
I am a yes. And then Ronald?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so moving along.
Thank
That
you.
passes 10-0-0-0. Thank you for the presentation and best of luck with the event. And I guess just keep in mind your conversation that you've had with Annie. So thank you. And now we will move on to Austria Tourism plus Vienna Tourist Board, the Walton to Space event.
Hello.
Who handled this? Was this you, John? I think so. Do you want to say anything at the beginning or?
Really not. It's the Vienna Waltz, event celebrating the 200th birthday of Jonathan, of Johann Strauss, who's viewed, I didn't know this before, it's the waltz king, the king of waltz. This event is being effectively sponsored by the Vienna Symphony. The idea is to have an event in Bryant Park where there would be dancing and other related events. But the key part is that it will be streamed, the actual orchestra in Vienna celebrating the 200th anniversary. They'll be streaming the event live on the big screen.
Okay.
This is so cool. Yeah, and the event will be taking place, which I want to get some clarification, but on the lawn, but also the upper terrace. And it will be taking place on May 31st. I'll let them go into greater detail, but that's the broad outline.
Yeah, Esther, do you want to take it away?
Absolutely. Yep. Let me share my screen. Thank you for your time this evening. And thank you for the synopsis. So yeah, this is the Vienna Waltz into Space event. It's being put on by the Vienna Tourist Board and the Austrian Tourism Office here in New York City. And as you mentioned, we are celebrating the 200th birthday of Johann Strauss, as with a live stream of a performance by the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, which will be happening live in Vienna at the Museum of Mixed Media Arts, I believe. And they are also sending the performance of the Blue Danube Waltz into space via a European Space Agency satellite, which is the ESA satellite, in case I refer to it that way. So they'll also be live streaming this event to Spain, to the location of that satellite, and they wanted to really bring it to New Yorkers as well. They thought this was a great way to celebrate Viennese culture, and what better place than Bryant Park to kind of grab a seat on the lawn, enjoy some great music on hopefully a beautiful May afternoon. So it's a little bit about why we're coming together. As I mentioned, we're producing this event to kind of bring people together to celebrate the culture of Vienna, and make this moment kind of accessible and inspiring beyond just for the attendees in Vienna. We want to unite people through that shared culture and turn this global anniversary into a memorable local moment. I've heard that a descendant of Johann Strauss may even be in attendance in the Strauss Lounge, which we're very excited about. So we'll have a special guest here in New York. What we're offering the community, we're really trying to bring all of that culture together, as I mentioned. So from everything from the live streamed performance of the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, that'll be from 2:30 p.m. to about 4 p.m. So before and after, we're inviting an Austrian DJ who is actually based here in New York, and she does a lot of very chill house style music, used to work at the Soho House, to kind of just play some ambiance music to allow people to kind of settle in, enjoy their food. As you mentioned, there will be a little bit of dancing. We'd like to invite an instructor from Vienna to do a waltz lesson just before the show at 2 p.m. That'll be a brief moment for us, about 20 minutes. And then the countdown to the orchestra performance will happen. We'll have some video that'll play on the screen. And we will also be serving some food and beverage from Austria. We're working with Stout, who already set up in Bryant Park and does a lot of their vending. And we'll be bringing in some Austrian beer and spritz. So one of the reasons that I mentioned that is that, as you see here, we're really relying heavily on the Bryant Park movie night floor plan. We're using that setup, we're building that same screen, we're using that infrastructure. It's one of the reasons that we thought this worked so well, is that New Yorkers know this as a destination for this. It's a natural fit, but that infrastructure is already there, and we're all very familiar with it. So in order to serve some of those Viennese and Austrian beverages, we will need to have BAs and security at the entrances to the lawn, but that's truly just to make sure people don't leave with their drinks and not to restrict anyone from entering. We're going to have people there encouraging people to come in and join us. We also will have 2 small info booths on either side of the lawn that has some information about the program and what we're doing, a little bit of information about Vienna. And I think there'll also be a possibility to kind of, scan a QR code, maybe win a trip to Vienna. So all of that is being offered within the lawn space. I know you mentioned the upper terrace. While I have this here, the upper terrace is only in consideration if we need to have a rain plan. We do have a small VIP section here, as you can see, again, similar footprint to what is done at movie nights. And we're planning to, in the case of rain or weather, that would still allow us to have the event go on, but maybe we want to have some covered space for some people. We will plan to use that for a tent, and that's a separate part of our agreement that would require kind of an additional commitment to the park and some additional planning, and we'll make the call the week of. And then lastly, I did give an overview here of our schedule and our run through the day. So the primary timing of the event is 1 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, May 31st. We've broken it into those couple of segments with kind of an hour of music as people are arriving and getting settled. We will have that waltz lesson at 2 p.m. And then our main event does begin closer to 2:30. We'll be streaming that performance live from Vienna at 3:45 is when we're sending the Blue Danube Waltz into space. On the website for the events out of Vienna, you'll note notice that you can obtain or kind of get a certificate for one of the notes of the waltz that can be sent into space. And we reserved several hundred of those here for New Yorkers. So again, at the info booth, people will be able to sign up and get that information, kind of participate in that piece of it. And then once we're wrapped up, we'll have about an hour or so of music again. We know people don't just kind of get up and leave, so we wanted to make sure there was a little bit of ambiance and environment, but we plan to wrap up by 5 p.m. Our load in and load out of the screen will take place overnight, excuse me, with just some kind of like setup of the info booth and some secondary elements on the lawn in the early morning hours and after we complete at 5 p.m. I think that's all that's in my actual deck. I did want to address, I know we've spoken a couple times about photo and video. I did make sure to connect with the team that we're working with on photo video. They already have a plan in place to have we have a plan in place to have signage up and around on the barricades that will be kind of in the park, to help with the flow of people with drinks. So we will have some signage there. We also will have with the photographer someone who has waivers that can be signed, as well as Vienna's very conscientious about this. And they have offered that in the past, if they have an image that they really love, but they don't have a person's likeness and a signature, that they will blur the imagery. And they've done that before. So they're very conscientious about this. And we relayed the information to them already that we wanted to make sure that we had someone with the photographer, and we're getting that language finalized with legal. Did I miss anything? That's it.
Cool. So any questions from anyone in the room from the committee? Mr. Kabak.
So just so I understand, it's 5:30, May 3rd, you're setting up, and the actual stuff is going on the Saturday, the 31st.
Correct.
From 1 to 4 p.m. And there's gonna be drinks involved in this? You said drinks? I wrote down drinks here.
There'll be drinks available to the public for purchase, as well as some food, some pretzel.
Can you show us where you're selling those drinks, please?
Absolutely. Stout, the vendor who's already in the park and does a lot of the vending, will be doing that. We're setting them up here in their pop-up bar location that they typically use on the Bryant Park movie nights. So they're gonna have the same setup and the same location.
What are the steps? Going down, okay, and drinks. Okay, I think of the other question.
John, did you have something you want to clarify?
I guess it's pretty much along those lines. Couple of questions, maybe could elaborate a little bit on the pricing scheme for the food and drinks. Secondly, I think you're expecting about 1,500 attendees, at least that's what you wrote the application. Like for you to expand on that, how you came up with that number. Also, your setup times and your what you're doing after the event, they seem to be quite long times, and I was just curious whether you were just being on the safe side. For instance, you say the setup would take place from 10:30 p.m. till 12 noon, which is 14 hours. And then so the after the event, you're saying it would take you from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. I just wish if you could elaborate a bit on that too, please.
Absolutely. I'll take those one at a time. So for pricing for the food, we're still working with Stout on finalizing what that pricing is. It will be in line with what they, again, typically do at movie night, but we're not restricting anyone from bringing their own elements to the lawn, right? It is very much a free, open to the public. The lawn is there, even if people aren't interested in the broadcast. We're still welcoming them to be there. We just wanted to have some offerings of like an Austrian summer spritz, some beer, just to kind of create that atmosphere and that environment of how people would want to enjoy a performance like this outdoors in the summer. The attendees, we came up with that number just in conversation with the park and just in line with kind of the goals of what we're looking for to make sure that we feel that there's, good attendance and that we're getting some exposure for the event. We're doing some promotion in the area, I think in the days leading up to it. But that was just a number that we kind of worked with the park to identify. And we're confident that based on the numbers, again, we've seen at movie nights that that the lawn can handle that. And yeah, I don't know, Kelly, if there's anything else you want to say there, if I'm missing it.
No, you've covered it.
I guess the other was the setup times.
Yep, the setup times. So yeah, they are longer periods. There's kind of two phases to it. There's the building of the screen. So the stage and the kind of truss structure will be up and in place because the picnic performances are happening ahead of ours. So that's already going to be in place. But the team does need to come in and build the screen overnight. And that's really what's going to start the night before. As soon as the park security clears that, the team, again, the team that always does it for movie nights will be handling our screen this year. So when they complete that, they will wrap up and be done. We then will have another team that's coming in the earlier morning hours to kind of just do those secondary elements. And really that's just going to be putting the info booths up, which is just 2 10x10 tents. We have some informational signage that will be next to those that's just has that QR code on it for more information about how to win the trip, as well as some information of we're going to put like a program, a schedule for the day, because we do have things kind of happening at different times. So those elements are happening later. And so, yeah, I think we're being a little bit safe right now with that timing. I don't anticipate that we'll have a large crew there for 14 hours in any way. And I don't even think we'll have a large crew at all. To be honest, the park's doing a lot of the heavy lift for us through the vendors that are already in place or working closely with us. So we're just bringing in some stagehands to kind of help with some of those smaller elements.
For the community board's knowledge, this will actually be the first time the LED is installed this year. So it's actually happening before movie nights will be starting up in mid-June. So that's part of the reason this load-in, we are expecting this load-in to take a little bit longer than normal because our stage dimensions change every year.
Okay. And just one follow-up question. Can you speak to the giveaways? They seem to be, at least my impression, quite considerable. Just want to know how you're managing that process. Sometimes crowds get a bit excited when
Understandable.
when they're valuable items being distributed.
Yep, we're giving out picnic blankets because we thought it was fitting and appropriate in case anyone didn't have theirs. And so we'll be giving those out at the 2 info booths. As noted, we're going to have security and brand ambassadors at those each of those entry points and locations. And so we'll keep a close eye on it if lines are forming or if crowds are forming. We'll make sure to manage that flow into an orderly queue quickly. And we're also giving out little pins, just enamel pins. They're about, I don't know, an inch and a half or so that we'll be handing out to people that just commemorate the moment and the events. Other than that, I don't believe we have anything else we're giving out. My team will be in like a hat and a t-shirt, but that's about it.
I think, well, except for the big one, the trip.
Oh, the trip. Yes. So the trip is but if you sign up on your phone, or you sign up on any sort of device that you have, it's via a QR code. It'll direct us you to a landing page, and then you can sign up that way. So that's really open to anyone, and we can make sure to have plenty of access points to that QR code so that we don't have any queuing.
And one last of them. I'm always just a personal curiosity, but it does relate to this event. Oftentimes I have opportunities to submit my name, in the lotteries, put some, trip around the world or what have you. And I'm just curious, typically, I'm not suggesting this for you guys, but I'm always suspicious of how that works. What's the process of picking someone? Could you just walk us, I'm just curious, could you walk us through how that process works? Do you hire the company to monitor that?
Absolutely. Every one of those sweepstakes or giveaways is different. There's some companies that specifically just do sweepstakes. I think in this case, the Vienna Tourist Board is actually handling that giveaway directly, and I believe that they have an agency in Vienna that kind of takes care of all of the logistics of that. Typically what it is they collect people's information and they put it into like a program that randomly selects a winner or like a top 5 people, and then they go down the list until they find someone who responds and is eligible.
Thank you.
Todd? Todd, did you have a question or should we?
I just unmuted.
Keep going.
I just want to make sure I heard something which was good, because my audio receipt is not the greatest. But did I hear you say that when you're going to have a photographer go around during the event with a waiver so that they will sign off on whether or not the digital material can be used?
We will have someone with the photographer who's doing that. So the photographer can focus, on capturing the imagery. We'll have someone with the photographer. We recognize that in like some cases, in large scale images, we may not be able to get everyone. And in that case, if there's someone that we don't identifiably know we have a waiver for, we'd plan to blur the imagery in the future for any of those larger kind of crowd shots.
Okay, so I believe, so the big thing is anybody that takes a picture is going to give you, permission in written or oral form at best, so that there's no issue with somebody having their image used without their consent. And in that, I applaud you, because in many of the events, that's not what we get. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you for the question.
Okay, so,
One more quickie.
okay,
You're giving away or you're selling pins and blankets, you mentioned. And I just want to know about the trash, the extra precautions about the pins will be wrapped in something, the blankets will be wrapped in something. What's being done to keep my park clean?
Of course. The blankets are actually wrapped in a strap that you'll want to use again and save to wrap back up. So we're hopeful that people will take those straps with them as a means of carrying that home. The pins may come wrapped in a plastic sheath. You're right. I haven't identified that with the vendor, but we are working on getting some janitorial support. We've been talking with the park about whether or not it makes sense for us to have their team kind of to help supplement their team to help with some additional coverage that day, or if we want to bring in an outside service to do it. But either way, we are highly focused on making sure that the park and the lawn especially are cleaned up afterwards.
okay, great. So now we're gonna go to the public briefly. Does anyone from the public have anything to comment on this? Seeing none, do we have any comments? Is this any sort of different than the previous ones? That seems,
Yeah, no, you're kidding. It's very
that seems good.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Can I get a motion?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's do the list. Cool. So John?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Libby's gone. Michael?
Yes.
Isabel?
Yes.
Kim?
Yeah.
Charles?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
And Myrtle?
Yes.
So unfortunately, though, we do have one other, so that is approved. There's one other thing on the agenda.
Yeah.
That I think was added today, or added briefly, which is the Madison Square Park. I'll read that vote first. First, it's, it was passed 10-0-0-0. There is the Madison Square Park Conservancy activation for Fresh Cosmetics on May 16th and 17th. I believe, Todd, did you?
That would be me introducing Michaela.
Yeah, do you have anything to say, or do you want to just have Michaela take it away and see how quickly we can do this?
Let me just, a very brief and quick beginning, then I'll turn it over to Michaela. So what this is, it's one of the limited number of events which we have experienced reviewing in Madison Square Park that help fund the park's operations. It's a 2-day activation by cosmetics brand Fresh, which includes a botanical themed sculpture garden. Interactive elements will allow the public to test and receive pre-travel size samples. No sales will recur. Activation free and open to the public. 700 people per day, 10 people working at the event. And just very quickly, my initial impressions, and I did discuss this with Michaela in a phone call I had with her, is that this is well within the scope and proceedings of other events of this type. It's basically a pavilion or structure that looks like a maze where people enter, they queue up and enter in, and they see smells and tastes and pictures. There is going to be very restrained signage and branding. And my concerns about this were limited basically to the lines and picking up if the samples are tossed. I do have some concerns that there's 2 days of setup and 1 day of disassembling, which seems like a lot for a 2-day event. But overall, it's well within what we have traditionally had, no amplified sound. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Michaela.
Great. Thank you, Todd. Michaela, if you'd like to take it away.
Sure. I can share my screen. Here we go. Okay, so can you guys see that slide?
No,
No?
we haven't.
Okay.
We see you.
How about now?
Now we're good.
Okay. All right, so I'll be quick because I know you've had a long night. As was mentioned, the 2 live dates of the activation are May 16th and 17th. It's beauty brand Fresh Cosmetics. This is an image of the structure. It's a labyrinth that actually thematically dovetails very nicely with the new botanical exhibit that's in Madison Square Park, which is also in a sort of spiral configuration, very similar to this design. The location is on the gravel, so we don't have any concerns about the grass being impacted. Obviously, the event is free. Participants will receive a sample if they would like to take one. I've already briefed the team on the need to minimize all packaging. There will be additional receptacles and staff placed throughout. And the brand staff is also instructed to walk the perimeter of the park, just in case someone who may have taken a sample decided they don't want it anymore, 100 yards away, will be actively collecting any additional litter. Here are a couple other images of the activation. One thing that is kind of interesting is that participants will be able to use multiple senses to enjoy this experience. There'll be pods of water where you can put your hand in and feel things. There'll be ingredients that are in this natural-based product are going to be on display, such as aloe, basil, soils, etc., where you can smell, you can touch. There'll be little windows that you can open, and there'll be like a cool breeze that'll flow through. So really, it'll be like a full sensory experience. The center of the pavilion will have a little sitting area where people can sit and talk. There'll be educational staff throughout explaining different elements of the product. And obviously, highlighting some of the key elements that are of concern of your committee. There's no amplified sound. There's one small area where you would listen to something through an earphone, but that's not projected throughout. The decor is very tasteful and minimal. There won't be, massive logos. There will be logos for the brand, but that'll be interspersed with sort of lifestyle imagery and nature elements. And of course, the key thing here is that this is one of the 4 activations that we welcome to provide a significant donation to the Conservancy. Because we can only do 4 per year, I literally reject these every day and only take in the ones that I think are a good fit for the park and that have passed our threshold for for budget and design and the team that's involved. So we do think very carefully before putting forth, using up one of our 4 slots to make sure that we can do very few, but good ones that are, I think, the most minimal impact on the park.
Great. Was that it? Or
That's it. That's it
Okay,
for me.
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone on the committee have any questions? Mr. Kapek?
Yeah, McKellar. McKellar, you're with the, Madison Square Park Conservancy?
Correct.
Before I saw, what's her name, who's the boss of that place?
Holly
She was
Light.
there-
Holly
Yeah,
Light. Yes.
she was there earlier. She gone now?
She was. She had to leave. She stayed on for the Nomad Jazz portion, but
So that's why you're doing the presentation and not her?
You'll need to unlock your iPhone first.
I'm doing it partially because she had to go, but partially because I'm the one who handles all of our activations. All the proposals come to me. I vet them. Of course, Holly, gives the final approval, but I'm the one who deals with the producers and make sure that everyone's following the rules and submit the permits to the Parks Department and all of that.
Great, that's great. Can you talk a little more about the structure of that, look, the concentric circular, put together of that, it's like a mouse thing?
Sure. So this is a series of sort of walls that are less than 10 feet high. There'll be window type holes in them like you see here, so that someone on the inside who may be, putting their hand into a window to touch something or, interact with an element, the people on the outside can actually see those transparent pods. So it'll be a two-way experience. These images
What
are
they made of? What are the walls made of, and are they sturdy if it's a windy day?
They are very sturdy, and that's part of why we need, a little bit of time to make sure this is constructed in such a way that it's going to be stable. I don't know the actual material that they're using. I can find out and let you know. But this is a fabricator that does a lot of these pop-ups all over the country. So it's, they realize that they're going to be in the elements, open to wind, et cetera.
Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else, any questions in the room or online? Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to comment on this? Okay, seeing none. Any comments from the committee?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Recognized, Todd.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as far as photography goes, digital photography goes, there really isn't going to be anything of substance, so we don't have to worry about that. I believe if we were to run this through the matrix, we have no energy to do that today. I believe that my recommendation would be to approve this. The only, as I said earlier, it's small, it's within scale, maybe the setups are a little bit too long, but it's well within the tradition of what we've approved for the Conservancy, not overly commercial. I would recommend to the committee that we approve this.
Okay, any other comments? Can I get a motion?
To approve, please.
I'll make
Great.
a motion. Any-
And yeah, and there was a second in there. So John,
Yeah.
Catherine,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Isabel,
Yes.
Kim,
Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Annie,
Yeah.
Todd,
Yes.
me as a yes, and Myrtle.
Yes.
Great, so the resolution again passes. Oh, and any conflicts after the fact? Okay, the resolution passes 10-0-0-0. And I believe that is the end of our agenda items. I will briefly open it up to public for new business. If there is anything that has been spoken about or someone wishes to speak to that has not been spoken about today, now is the time. And seeing none, let's bring this meeting to a close. I guess I say that, right? So, thank you all. And thank you. Also, thank you, Michaela. And best of luck with your event.
Thank you.
Cool.
Great. Good night.
Awesome.
Bad. Funny enough.
Hey, nice to meet you. I know, I don't think I ever said, I saw you a couple of weeks ago. at the
Yes, I had
first
to run
full-
out of our last meeting, but it's first full board meeting. Oh, good to see you. It's good to
Give
be
you back. Wow, nice.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Nice to be back. Yeah.